Hey, and we're live.
We're alive. We're doing it live. We're doing
Oh
it
yeah, we
live.
are.
Hooray, yeah.
Pretty cool. Pretty
Yep.
cool.
I'm opening up Twitch. Gonna watch us twitching.
That's good.
Awesome. Well, I guess thanks everybody for joining us. I mean, I suspect no one's watching us at this instant, but if anyone does in a little bit, it's, good to have people around watching us ramble about models and that sort of thing. I don't think we're going to actually put this into a podcast this evening. But probably next week we'll actually do that. But we just thought we would, talk about hobby related stuff, what we're working on, and probably spend a little bit of time talking about Blackstone Fortress since we recently got a copy of it and, yeah, have some thoughts about it.
Yeah, we actually got the game. Who knew? It's overall, I'm really impressed with it. I think it's one of GW's strongest showings in a while. I mean, I guess I could say the same about Adeptus Titanicus, but this game was a lot. I feel a lot more of a surprise. Like we knew Adeptus Titanicus was coming out for a long time, and on top of that, we sort of knew the models were going to be nice because they were based off all the wonderfully designed and executed like war machines and stuff from Forge
Mm-hmm.
World. And I
Yeah,
guess
no,
the knights.
that's certainly true. And just the fact that this also is more of a board game too. So that's a little different from what
Yeah.
uh, they tend to do, but that's nice.
Oh, actually, that's kind of funny. You can tell in the background of my picture, you can see there's another little webcam in the background on a tripod. um, if any of you are wondering, that's a little webcam pointing at like my workstation. And so sometime in the future, I might end up trying to like videotape and live stream some of the work I'm doing. Here's a
I'm
picture of the
interested in
workstation.
seeing that, Adam.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think this ultimately this camera is not gonna be that great for that because we can't really zoom in to see any of that. But like, let's see what it looks like if I'm. Yeah, you can sort of see that. But
Well, and I mean, towards that end, like more than anything, I think it's just
yeah,
not that great because it, um, not that you can't zoom in as much, but it's just like it's not directly above what you're working on, such that
yeah,
it's
you're not
harder.
gonna be able to learn anything aside from maybe what I'm saying. But and I guess you can also tell some of the other acquisitions. We recently got a copy of the Rogue Trader Kill Team game. I didn't really think I was gonna get it, but the local hobby shop near where I live, they were selling them for $80, which I think the list price is 130. So I don't know. I guess they just couldn't sell them, and they wanted to get rid of them.
Yeah, they
Um,
got too many of them or something of that nature. I
yeah,
don't
because
know.
I remember a week or two earlier they were having like a raffle to give away a copy of Kill Team, the Rogue Trader Kill Team game. So they must have just had tons of them. And but regardless, I got one, and I don't. Most of the models I'm not that keen on converting or anything, but some of the human models I think will be. They might find their way into some conversions. So, and I think we've already talked about
Yeah.
Night Vault. We still have that still not opened. Pretty excited about that.
Yeah.
I guess there's a chance some of the.
Wait, you didn't even open it?
No, I didn't even open it.
Oh,
I
well,
think
I mean, I wouldn't have.
some of the Night Gaunt models or whatever they're called, there's a chance they will maybe find their way into some conversions and stuff for our Mordheim stuff, like the ones you're working on.
Man, Adam, you have a lot of shit.
I have tons of stuff. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
here
a
are like
lot
the
there.
little some of these little banshees that I've talked about these on streams and stuff before as well, but I largely got these just because their hands and stuff are smaller. than a lot of GW models. So
Do I see the old version of the Dark Eldar Homunculus special character, Yuri
oh
Rathart or
oh yeah, he's
something?
hiding. He's hiding over here. Oh gosh. Yeah, I don't even know what I think about this model. This was actually made by, I think, sculpted by Chris Fitzpatrick, I believe, right?
I
Was he the
think
one who
that
did that? I mean, he
That's what I would
sculpted
have
some of
guessed.
those stuff back in
He's
the
an
day.
interesting model. Like he has like a little sheath or whatever for a knife on his side, but I don't know what knife it is. He must have thrown it to the ground because it's certainly not the massive blade that he's holding.
yeah, it's true.
Um, and then we also have some. We have some of one of the new releases, which it's probably going to be hard to see here. One of the new releases. These are some of the old epic Imperial Knight Lancers, and so it might actually be fun to do like a blog post or something comparing these models to the new plastic Lancers that recently were released. They look pretty different, but eventually maybe we'll assemble some of these and we could use them in game. Back in the day, it looks like they were $9.50. What a deal. Um, and then I guess on top of that, there are also some. These are actually, I think, models that were released during the time of like Rogue Trader from the original game. These are just called Warhammer 40,000 Adventurers. And I don't know. They're all manner of weird, kind of characterful models. And so yeah, maybe sometime we'll I guess a few like maybe a year or two ago we painted some older like models and kind of get into like a kick of some of like the old Hammer models and stuff, and I've sort of always been meaning to get back to those. So we'll see. Hopefully, maybe next year I'll have more time to do that. Okay, let's set all this stuff back. Alright, so that just an update on new acquisitions, I guess, if anyone cares. Alright, so workstation camera, it's gone. It'll return. But yeah.
Yeah, I feel if we get a better way to mount the camera above it, it'll be easier. Because even if you can't easily zoom in with it, at the very least, you could like just bring it up to the camera more easily without like
Yeah.
having to look in a viewfinder or something like that.
Yeah, so we'll see. Maybe in a few weeks or so we'll have a better arrangement. Yeah. I guess typically we talk a little bit about like progress, hobby progress, any models or whatever we've been working on. Eric, have you done anything?
Not a whole lot. Primarily, or since we just got the Blackstone Fortress, I started to kind of trim and work on some of those models, but we can talk about that in a little bit. Like, but overall, they're pretty nice, and the level of detail and stuff on them is much better than I feel GW used to acquire, and is a lot better than most of the other companies that I think are making plastic models at the moment.
Yeah, no, they've really done a good job with the models. I guess so. Greg, have you done anything?
Um, no.
Cool.
I unrelated to hobby stuff, I submitted the manuscript to a publisher for a book I wrote about shooting handguns safely and effectively. I
That
signed the contract to this publisher, like, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago, and finally submitted the book. So, like, I've been writing the book, I guess.
that's a big accomplishment. Oh,
And
that's good. Now maybe you'll have time to do some other
yeah,
stuff.
maybe I'll try to do some hobby stuff or write some posts. Like, we've been kicking around the idea of trying to write maybe some posts about musical inspirations that might tie into Warhammer, or even if they don't directly tie into Warhammer, might um, show some influence in what we end up building. But when I
Yeah.
say we, I mean not me. I mean you, Adam, and you, Eric.
Sorry, I just disappeared for a second there.
That's
Oh,
fine.
I didn't even realize.
I guess, yeah, so I've been working on a bunch of stuff lately. Largely just continuing the trend of working on Mordheim models and thinking about new Mordheim models that I could make for, like, the Sister of Sigmar warband. So let me clicking on all sorts of stuff. But here we... Oh, boy. One of the Sisters of Sigmar that I've been working on, and I think I touched on last week, was one made from the Eyes of the Nine Night Vault like box set. And so here's just a picture of the model that I've been working on. I've taken an X-Acto blade and have been carefully adding in different scars and stuff on like the model's face to try and make it look like this is like a veteran who's seen a lot of combat. I think I'll also add some other scars and stuff to like the model's arms and stuff as well. Then I'm also continuing to work on her like shield, which I was trying to kind of make this look like a flaming twin-tailed comet. And so
Yeah, that's the Sigmar symbol, all right.
Yeah, and so it still needs a bunch of work, but I mean it's getting there.
Looks
Does
like
the twin-tailed comet have a big eye on it?
Currently it does, and like I will probably I'll modify that in some way. I don't know exactly what I'm gonna do with it.
But I think it looks pretty effective thus far. We actually have, it seems someone is watching our stream. Lifeboat sank, and they suggested that Blackstone Fortress looks nice.
Oh
And
yeah,
I
it
think
certainly
it
does.
I think this is a friend from college, but thanks for joining us tonight as we ramble on about Warhammer 40,000 models and that sort of thing.
Lifeboat sank reminds me of like, or it sounds like it could be the name of a song by Modest Mouse. That's what it reminds me of.
Yeah, agreed. I mean,
Isaac Brock likes to have nautical imagery, or at least
well, wasn't there?
More recently, he likes.
Wasn't there not their last album, but the one before? Like, wasn't
We Were Dead Before the Ship Even
Yeah.
Sank was the name of the album, and there was a song called "Miss the Boat."
Yeah. So
Oh hell, they have the whale song. Like, yeah, they have a lot of nautical imagery.
Yeah.
I don't know if people can hear. I think it's probably a little too soft, but the I have a neighbor upstairs that he likes to sing loudly at random times all throughout the day, like really loudly and not particularly well. And he's
I'd
been at it
Consider
for a
taking
while.
that up, Eric. It might be a fun way to occupy your time.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm not
Maybe.
hearing it though. I wish I was. Do you think he's singing along to songs?
I don't think so. I think he's. Oh, I don't know. I
He
think
has a
he's.
band or something.
No.
Okay.
No.
Can you
I
tell
don't-
what songs they're singing?
No, it's never apparent.
Okay.
And it's too bad. Like, it doesn't ever seem to like have any cadence or rhythm to it. Like, it's
Okay.
just not. It's not good.
Sounds like the best type of song.
Yeah. Yeah.
Alright, so I guess, yeah, that's about all the hobby progress on my end. I'm going to continue sculpting and working on the Sisters of Sigmar, and I guess one of the hopes, I'm also going to maybe even use one of the Blackstone Fortress, some of the Blackstone Fortress models to convert other Sister of Sigmar models. But we'll see.
Lifeboat Boat Sank just commented here. The new Ice Age song,
Oh,
and
Oh,
brutal.
fucking Ice Age. I don't know if
it made me chuckle.
people listening to this after the fact know about Ice Age, but they're like a Danish like punk rock sort of band. I feel like they started out more punk than they are now. I feel now they sound more like Joy Division with some punkishness to it.
I always thought of them as like, oh wait, actually, who are we? Oh, I was just thinking of Iced Earth. They're
Oh
completely
no, Ice
different.
Earth's
Very different.
power
They're
metal
pop
band.
metal, like
Power
power
metal
metal.
band. But yeah, Ice Age, yeah, they're like Danish punk rock slash Joy Division depressive sounding sort of stuff.
Interesting.
The
Yeah.
first
I didn't
two
even know
albums
they
I
had a new
listened
song.
to, they were pretty good, or I liked them well enough. I saw them one time live, and holy shit, the singer was so drunk, and it just didn't sound good. Nothing about it sounded good. Like maybe we can just say that everybody was drunk and then didn't play their instruments well, and the singer didn't sing well. Like it didn't sound good. Like one of the worst
Yeah,
sounding
I think I was
shows
there too.
I've ever been to.
It wasn't in a real venue either, right? It was like
It was like we saw a small like metal festival there. It was right by some
yeah.
Target store in Pittsburgh. Like the upstairs of some apartment building.
Wasn't there a dance school underneath it?
I don't even remember.
I think there was.
But to make matters worse, the little that I've read from like review or interviews of the singer to Ice Age, which now I don't remember his name, but boy, does he sound trendy and like trying to sound super smart and such. I mean, anytime somebody says the guy who wrote the book Story of the Eye is an influence, like you have to question.
Trying a little too hard.
Yeah, trying too fucking hard.
Yeah.
Oh, Ice Age. Maybe they can play live better now, but I'm not going to go and see them, even if they do come around again.
Yeah,
Here no more.
I haven't listened. I listened to their like first album a little bit. That's all.
All right, back on topic. Are we gonna? We may as well talk a little bit about Blackstone Fortress because we recently got it and opened it up, and I think overall, Eric, you and I looked at the stuff. Greg, you still haven't seen it, but I think overall, I was really impressed with just about all of it. The models themselves are very well detailed.
Yeah, no, it's really good, and I feel we've just since it's been was announced, like the internet has been awash with images of all this stuff, and I think you kind of until you actually see the models in person, you somewhat lose how small and well detailed the models are because you see them so much larger and blown up on like a computer screen, things like this. But like they're pretty small, and I think it's pretty impressive that Games Workshop is able to get plastic models to look as good as they are.
Yeah, and it's also interesting. Like all of the models have pretty distinct and recognizable silhouettes, and
Mm-hmm.
all of that is sort of achieved with like the pretty like basic like
Yeah,
snap together
Lifeboat
plastics.
Sank here actually mentioned that the models are interesting and not derivative of like just cliches and such. And I think
Hmm.
that's true and is honestly somewhat surprising that particularly like looking at the heroes here, they aren't super obvious like generic Space Marine, generic like
There's
well
not even
certainly you
an
can tell
there's
a
not
lot
even
of
an
the
Imperial Guardsman.
Yeah, you can
Or
certainly
an
tell a lot of them
Inquisitor with a
are.
big hammer. There's the
Yeah,
Inquisitor with the big hammer.
maybe they're
Yeah, no,
coming.
it's true. I feel like certainly there are elements that are reminiscent of other GW models and whatnot, but they didn't. It seems like they didn't just take the super easy route to make them. And like some of the models, like the Navigator there, which I think is one of their best. Like just honestly, hardly even looks like a Games Workshop model. He's not in like a squatty, horrible pose. He's not brandishing a weapon like the size of themselves. He isn't filled with skulls, like all those things. Like certainly it's an imperial model and you can see that, but it looks very different from a lot of them. And hell, he even has that backpack there thing that
It's
It
actually
has a
pretty
purity seal
small.
on it. It has a purity seal.
yeah, I mean that's true. But the backpack thing is somewhat small. Like they could have just taken their assets from their Skitarii Rangers and just like put it on there, but they didn't. They made it smaller, which isn't a thing that I normally associate with Games Workshop.
Yeah, I think overall this is like one of my favorite models like I've seen GW do like ever. I
Yeah, I
really
mean,
like it.
so good. Like I just clipped him out, trimmed him, and assembled him. Like I don't think you need to do anything to him. And if you did, like I feel a
Is
lot
it
of
a him? It
times
wouldn't have to be a him.
it's him
True.
based on the background, but it wouldn't have to
Oh,
be.
okay.
He has
I
a
didn't
It's
nice
read
small
anything.
holster.
Well, so Blackstone Fortress to me, I feel has two of the best 40K models I've seen in a long, long time. One of them's the Navigator. The other one's the Man of Iron. I think that Man of Iron is great.
Yeah, okay, so we can
yeah, the
go.
robot.
It took the robot. It took an idea that has been talked about in Warhammer 40,000 basically since Warhammer 40,000 has been a thing, and you always feel a little bit worried when they decide to actually give imagery to something that they've been talking about for a long time, because then it takes a little bit of the uh, mystery out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like when
Blackbird Sank seems to really like the Man of Iron too. It's a good choice.
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
it's
awesome.
great.
But
Really
yeah, it would have
interesting.
been really easy for them to just make it to just get like, oh wow, I can't believe they did that, and like not really impart any new imagery or anything. And like this, wow, he certainly has some imperial look to him. Like he's pretty unique, and he has a pretty nice size too. The model in that it's a little bit taller and larger than like a Primaris Space Marine, but not wildly so. So I think the scale is pretty good and more. I guess I don't have a. Um,
Here's like a. Um,
I even just sent you an image that you might be able to easily project.
oh, I brought one up
Ah,
too.
okay, yeah.
Maybe you have a different one.
I
There
think
it
I
is.
Yeah, but like, so he's pretty tall. But and one thing that I think is one of the best parts about it, he has his like an assault cannon there. And I wish I had a Terminator here that I could compare it, but I'm pretty confident it's smaller than um, Games Workshop's traditional assault cannon, and it's a lot better for it. I mean, it's still large, but I mean, it's on a robot, so it doesn't matter as much. But also the belt, the ammunition feed is pretty thin. It's not like overly huge. Like it's just there's a lot more subtlety and nuance there than
Yeah.
I always or often think of when I think of like a Games Workshop model.
Well, so I feel this in general, just like this picture, um, does a good job of representing like the scale, the scale details and stuff for at least most of the models in the game. Like they vary pretty widely, and if put like next to one of these Primaris Space Marines, it actually looks about like you might
It feels
expect.
right. It feels right to me. Like if that Space Marine was standing up tall, he'd be like at least a head up taller than the Navigator.
Yeah, I mean,
Hmm.
so like if you take the primary Space Marine as a Space Marine, I
Yeah, you
think that's
can't think
like
of him
what you
as a
want.
primary space marine, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately,
Yeah, so
depending on who you ask.
yeah,
But yeah, so I assembled both the Navigator and the Man of Iron there because I think they're great. And I mean, in some sense, the Man of Iron looks a little bit like one of those what Castellan robots, a little bit, but
yeah,
it's not quite as like 1920s pulp science fiction, and I think he looks a little bit better because of that. And he's a bit, or it is a little smaller and more nuanced. Like I don't know, I think the model's good.
yeah,
And
no, really nice.
at least these two that I assembled, they snap together pretty nicely. There aren't large gaps and such. I mean, there are a lot of models, so who knows? I'm sure not all of them will go together quite as well, but at least these two and some of the simpler like spindle drones and such have gone together really well.
Also,
Yeah,
Lifeboat said about the Man of Iron, it's interesting. He reminds me of Tau and exosuits from retro-inspired sources, but not as garish as those in Fallout. So yeah, so there's certainly like it has elements of kind of like 60s sci-fi, like old sci-fi stuff, but they don't lean too hard in it. They still have more modern elements to it. Um, and yeah, it does remind me of Fallout as well. Um,
Yeah, no, it certainly does.
Somewhat of the power armor in Fallout, which I think largely is a good design in Fallout, but also of some of like the robots and stuff in Fallout that are clearly inspired off of like the kind of wonky old
hmm,
sci-fi art.
Hmm.
But this, I don't think, leans as heavily into that. Though I think there are probably some people that don't really like the Man of Iron because it reminds them of kind of that old sci-fi campy shit.
Hmm.
Which I don't know how easy it would be to bring up a picture. The Castellan robots, or I think they were called, like the Adeptus Mechanicus one released a larger robots that kind of has a similar imagery to them, where a lot of people didn't like those because of like the domed heads they had that they didn't think looked 40K ish enough. Well, Adam, yeah, Adam's looking
Castellan
for them.
robots.
It's for
I
the K, I think.
There they are.
It showed up there.
We found them. Yeah, so they're a little wonkier.
When they have those horrible gun fists, it's just bad. But
Yeah,
the
they're a
power
little
fist
weak.
things look good.
Overall, I still like them.
Yeah, I think they're cool.
Yeah. All right. So, do we have any other like comments about some of like the models and stuff from at least some of what we'll deem the heroes? I guess. Um, I guess I can say the I don't even know what are they called. This model here with like the flamethrower chainsword. The
I don't know what the fuck they call her.
A redemptionist, let's say.
Yeah, Redemptionist.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. Um, I'm actually pretty excited. I think I might actually take this model and use it to convert a Sister of Sigmar, one wearing like heavier armor.
Well, so I'm kind of surprised, like the tattered cloth, like around her legs and stuff, like that actually is fairly thin
Yeah,
and
no, it
like
actually is. And
impressively
there's,
done.
um, if you actually look at the different pieces, they've actually like sculpted. They've actually sculpted her like legs and pants and stuff underneath. So there's actually a fair amount of detail you can see underneath the cloth, which is something I feel typically they kind of just fill that in with plastic. And so here, like they did a great job of
Yeah,
like
no, I
model
feel a lot of the
design,
models have additional detail like that. They actually put the treads on like
a
models'
lot of the
boots
boots.
and
Yeah, I mean, and
like
look at
there's
this. They even have like a little book. She has a book on her side that's actually in the scheme of 40K books. That's pretty small.
yeah. Yeah, it's
I
true.
like it. Yeah, so what I'll do with this model, I think I might make a Sister of Sigmar wearing heavier armor, and then I might have her have like a two-handed hammer, and then I think she's gonna be missing one of her hands. Maybe even replace her hand with some rudimentary like hook or something, so she can still vaguely use her two-handed hammer.
Yeah, no, I think that's good. I mean, I think the model looks nice. Like, I don't. The flamethrower thing is kind of big and dumb looking, but like, what can you do?
Yeah, I mean, there's still always gonna be some of those like over the
There can
top
always be
40k
improvements.
elements. Yeah.
Well, also, she has like this little shrine thing hanging down that, like, well, I'm not always a huge fan of that sort of stuff. Like, it's pretty impressive. Like, there's actually like a praying little saint in there that you can't
Yeah.
really maybe see super easily from that, but like, it's really, really finely detailed.
Yeah, no, it's an impressive model. And like look at those boots. These boots are smaller than your typical boot.
Yeah, that's not a typical
See,
GW
the
model.
thing is, if this was like a male model, the boots would probably be twice as large when they wouldn't need to be.
Yeah, so and the same sort of goes with like there are a bunch of trader guardsmen that you'll probably talk about in a little bit, and they have some that are clearly supposed to be female that are slightly slighter of frame, and I kind of feel like a lot of those elements like it would just work better if all of the models were more like that.
Yeah,
But
but overall, like I think the trader guard looked great. And one of the details that I hadn't really noticed, um, hadn't really noticed before actually taking a look at the models, was actually a detail on one of the models that I think I liked the least, and that's the one pulling the pin on the grenade. Um, and I guess where the big problem is how big the grenades are. It's just it makes the hands look even larger to fit around it. But they actually added a bunch of neat details to the model, particularly the model has like a las rifle slung on their side. And so I think, let me see if I can find it. I think I have another picture of that.
it seems Greg, the power went off for Greg, so I think he'll be back in a little bit. You probably saw the
Oh, yeah, he's gone.
yeah.
Um,
You may have seen the notification there. But yeah, as Adam, as you're saying there, that
damn, let
he's
me find the picture.
he's throwing the grenade and such, so he has his rifle slung on his back, and
If you actually take a closer look at that rifle, it is significantly smaller than the las rifles the other models are carrying, and it just brings up the like notion like what if Games Workshop had made all of the Trader Guardsmen have las rifles, smaller ones of that size. I think
they
they
would
would,
look so much
yeah,
better.
they'd look a
Well,
lot better. And I mean,
well,
the reason they made the thing smaller was because if they had taken one of the larger ones and tried to put them on the side of the model, it wouldn't have fit. Be
yeah,
dragging along the ground.
yeah, I
So
find
like
it's hilarious. It's like in
they
yeah,
knew
like
and designed it like, well, we're gonna have to change this if we want to make it work.
yeah, so it's like just in the trader guard themselves, like it's obvious they realized the weapons are too large and sort of dumb looking, so they like put a better proportioned one. Like I find it sort of hilarious that it's like yeah, like these are way too large, but like we'll still do it anyway.
I mean, and like I feel it could have been like maybe if just one of the like so one of them like the one we have pictured here is like one of the larger rifles. Like maybe you could argue like oh it's some like huge like sniper rifles, sort of like the 50 caliber Barrett sniper rifles and stuff people like use in the Marine Corps and stuff. But it's clear based on some of the other models that that's not really the case here.
Yeah, no. So I mean, I guess what it just means now, like we're gonna have to spend the effort to cut all
Yeah,
these
we're gonna have to
rifles
trim
down,
the rifles down.
convert them, and make them a little bit more like
More
this
like the
grenade.
one we see on the upper las rifle there. But yeah, so you
Yeah,
can see there two essentially. I guess they sculpted two model. Yeah, it's like two models with the las rifles. One, both of which are sort of shouldering the rifle, which is good. Like that's nice to see. One just has both of their hands on the rifle, and the other one is propping up their rifle with a hand holding a knife, which is kind of neat. Kind of giving a sense that they're like also like a knife fighter of sorts. But I feel in this case it would be a lot easier to do what they're doing there if their weapon was like
yeah, not
two
that
times
huge.
smaller.
Yeah, it's true.
Because I mean, even if that was somehow really light, which I doubt it is, just based on the size of it, it'd be pretty difficult to like maneuver it around.
yeah, it would. And like the flamethrower that the one model has is like so gigantic that just not good.
Hey
Hey,
Greg, are
friends,
you
I'm
back?
back.
Hey
I'm
Greg,
back.
you're back. That's good.
Good, you're back.
So
Like the power flickered off here, and
you
my
got back pretty
computer went
quickly
off.
overall.
Yeah.
So I guess Greg, you missed the picture. So we were talking about how one of our favorite details from the Trader Guardsman was actually on the Trader Guardsman we liked the least, the one like throwing the grenade, and that was they had a las rifle like slung to their side. And so here's a picture of it, and you can tell it's significantly smaller than the las rifles like the other two
That they're
Trader
holding.
Guardsmen are carrying and
That's-
holding.
That's pretty great.
Yeah, so just imagine how much stronger the Trader Guard would look if they had just maintained that size.
The smaller size.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been so much better. But now we have to do that.
Yeah, so that's probably something we'll eventually try and work on. Make some small modifications to the Trader Guard to make them look.
Even like the last, like the power cell thing.
It's like half the
That's-
size.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's smaller too. Yeah.
Yeah, just everything's smaller. Yeah, and as I had mentioned, I find it somewhat hilarious. It's like Games Workshop is like is admitting that the sizes of the weapons are ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean the model wouldn't have worked if they were. They'd literally be dragging the barrel along the ground.
Yeah. So I think overall the Guard are pretty good. And
Yeah, overall I
there's a
like them.
strong step in a better direction.
Yeah, they just have to kind of take the lead of that like shoulder slung las rifle and try and make them smaller.
Yeah, it would be so much better.
Everything would benefit.
God, the chainsword that the sergeant guy has is gigantic too.
I sort of thought it seemed kind of small overall.
I mean, it's probably smaller than they often do. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not very thin though. Looking at it here,
But I mean,
well,
it's fucking huge. But in the scheme of chainswords, it's I would say sort of reasonably sized. For one thing, that is a little weird. How this like the blade part or the chain part at the very top, how it's like looking like it's moving back into the housing. I feel that doesn't. I think that the blades are a little too big for that to work.
yeah, it wouldn't be able
rotate
to like,
right.
go in
But
there.
whatever,
like-
that's fine. Whatever. Cool model regardless. They have it. They have like a kind of cool holster on their side, which the last pistol they're holding wouldn't fit into. Cool, cool.
Yeah, it's a neat detail.
Yeah, I like that. It is also interesting. Some of like the las rifles and this las pistol, on the upper part of the pistol, there's like an additional like piece which almost hints at the butt, like, oh, maybe they were trying to add like a rear sight to the weapon. They didn't quite get there, but
No,
they didn't quite get there, but maybe they were thinking about it.
maybe, maybe.
Um, I guess, do we want to bash the Chaos Marines again, or like leave that alone?
Let's
Like,
maybe
We need
leave it
to talk
alone.
about them again.
They're terrible.
yeah, they look terrible. And I think almost the one that looks the worst is the Lord. Like seeing him in person, it does not.
Yeah, I mean we have him now, and he's gonna stay in a box and never be used.
Yeah, I don't think we can use him. I mean, it's interesting to think if it would sort of be a interesting experiment to see like how much better we could make the model with like the least amount of effort. I feel if you just took his head and seated it higher, he'd look a lot better.
We'll turn the picture to the side. Like, is the head placed too far forward, or is it about the right
I mean,
place?
it's maybe it might be forward a little bit, but overall it's
Okay, it's not
okay.
horrible.
The main thing is it's just seated so low. Like he
Yeah,
doesn't have a neck. He hardly has a torso. He
they lost
doesn't.
that after 10,000 years in the warp. The neck.
He lost. He essentially lost all of the muscles and stuff in his butt.
Yeah,
Um,
they're gone.
all right,
It's a
we're,
common thing, a common mutation, and when they
yeah,
make
that's
space
what
marines.
chaos does to you. The chaos
Yeah.
powers, they atrophy your
Right.
buttocks.
Admittedly, his hammer could have been a lot bigger for GW
No, I
standards.
mean that's true. I think they did a good job with the hammer. I like the hammer.
They made sure the plasma pistol made up for that lack of size.
I guess his arms are seated a little high.
But that kind of
Yeah,
goes back to the fact that
his
he
head's
doesn't
just
have a neck.
seated too
Head's
low.
not
He doesn't
big
have a
enough.
neck.
Yeah.
So the plasma pistol is interesting. Overall, it looks okay, but they added this like additional cable to the bottom of it. Like, why is that there? Is it like an extra grip so he can
I
have
think
like
it's
a
supposed to
two?
look like a P90 or something.
Yeah, maybe.
Looks bad.
I mean,
Which
what is
actually,
that?
towards that end, the auto pistols, they
What are
have
they
like a little foregrip on the auto pistols that honestly, like, if you take that into account, they actually sort of do look like Uzis or something. If you basically don't consider them pistols and think of them as like a machine gun,
More like a
it
yeah,
kind of
submachine
works.
gun.
I didn't look closely enough at some of these.
Oh,
I
like,
didn't
I don't have
realize
a
there was
good
some that
picture of
had auto
that.
pistols
The one with the club has one,
with the club.
Is that
but
like
I
a
don't think they
foregrip or
look
is that
good.
like a stupid like chaos star or something
It's a
hanging?
foregrip.
Oh man,
It's a foregrip.
that's
So like,
crazy. Can you take
I mean,
a picture of that, Eric?
I can see if I can here. I mean, honestly, it's like the old Necromunda style. Like they had some old Juve models that I remember an Escher one that was
Yeah,
holding it like a machine gun.
like a submachine gun. Yeah, it's hard to tell from these pictures that the one with the auto pistol was not one of the ones they chose to
Yeah, they didn't
showcase.
really show too many. They showcased that bad flamethrower. That's pretty
Let's
cool.
take a look at the flamethrower guy again. Look at that flamethrower. And I'm not really much of a fan of the shovel on his back. It almost looks like they just wanted to add something as, shovel, put it there. That's fine.
Yeah, it's not very good.
I don't know that you would want the main body of a flamethrower to be made out of wood.
Yeah, I mean, that's a little questionable. But, I mean, whatever. I mean, the whole model is very flammable, and so he's probably been set alight a lot.
I don't love the fact that they have all these pelts and stuff on them, but
Okay,
I mean,
well, so, alright, yeah, so the auto pistol, yeah, it does have, like, that little foregrip, and, like, I guess I was talking about that stupid little ring. Like, what's that
yeah,
ring doing there for?
that's dumb.
It's for a lanyard to put it around his neck like a necklace.
With the, yeah, I guess. Pretty cool.
Yes,
So,
I mean,
so yeah, the auto pistol very much has like the design of like an Uzi, or I guess in this case it probably would be like a full size Uzi, not a micro or a mini Uzi. They're too
yeah,
big.
or a gigantic Mac 10.
That too. Ingram gun.
Yeah. But so at the moment, I feel I'm just gonna try to assemble a bunch of them. Maybe for some of them, just not glue them together, cut off some of the tabs such that I can pull them apart, and then like slowly convert them. But I mean, I'd like to be able to actually play the game a little bit, which I've read through the rules and such, and it seems like pretty straightforward and fairly reminiscent of their previous Warhammer Quest game, like the Silver Tower, and I forget what the other one was called.
For some reason, the 360 rotating view of the Chaos Space Marine doesn't work. Guess they don't want you to see their backside.
Yeah. Yeah.
Too bad.
But I think one thing about the rules, like they're separated into like at least 3 different booklets, which is somewhat odd. Like it, yeah, I feel it's an odd choice. I mean, I guess the idea was they were hoping that you could, oh, if you're in combat, you could just go to the combat booklet and find the rules more easily. But I feel it's, I don't know, doesn't maybe work as well as they were hoping it to.
Well, how do you know, Eric? What? Maybe when you're playing, it'll be like, this makes sense.
Well, it doesn't make sense when reading it the first time.
Okay.
Like, but I mean, it works, and it seems more like they wanted to use that fantasy flight model where they give you like one book to get you started, and then they have another larger one that has the in-depth rules and such, and it doesn't work as well as that. And then they have a thing of data sheets for using them in 40K, which I don't know, who cares.
Well, so that actually brings up like an interesting point. I'm sort of glad they separated into that many books because of that, they had a different piece of artwork commissioned for the front of them. And
yeah, that's true.
The one for the data sheets, which I've shown now, it actually has a really neat picture of like whatever that Chaos Lord is. He's like sitting on a throne. And then he has his 2 like traitor Chaos Space Marines beside him, and then there's some other traitor guard kneeling to him. And here you have a great sense of like, why didn't the Chaos Space Marines look like the ones in that picture?
Can you zoom in at all on that?
No, this is the best I got. I guess, Eric, maybe you could take a picture of that too.
I'll see if I can find it here.
But like, it just looks so much better. Like, the Space Marines are standing straight and tall. Their proportions are a lot better. And
I don't know if I have it here.
They look a lot better. Yeah, it's a little hard to see with the picture here.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, maybe if you have the game, it's worth actually spending some time and looking at the individual artwork for all the stuff. They also have like artwork for each of the heroes.
Yeah, but I think like pretty much all the artwork was done by Paul Dainton. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce his name, but he does most of the really cool artwork for GW now, I feel.
Yeah, he's been with them for a long time.
The fact that he has done like all the artwork in this strengthens it tremendously. There's some neat pictures of just the Blackstone Fortress and like Precipice, which is like the little space station thing that's around it, and like all that stuff.
Is it that he just did most of the artwork for like the book,
If he did like it, he did all
Nearly
of it.
all of it,
So
I
that
think.
that is even better. Like it's not like, well, there are some good pictures.
No, he
Like,
did everything.
yeah, you couldn't
Except
ask
for,
for
I guess,
some.
yeah, they also have, it's interesting, they have like illustrations of like a lot of the like smaller spacecraft and stuff that maybe, I guess, Eric, you could speak more to this. Are those like the like launch shuttles or whatever that
Yeah, so like the
so
lore surrounding this is that when I guess I don't know how much it's worth talking about, but when Cadia was destroyed and the Eye of Terror like spilled out more and it like kind of tore this rift across the galaxy. When that happened, like wow, it certainly made things shittier for the Imperium. In certain regions, some warp storms that had been there disappear, and essentially somewhere in the western fringe of the galaxy, Pacificus theater, a region where warp storms were kind of disappeared, and a Blackstone Fortress that seems to be functional showed up there. And all surrounding this Blackstone Fortress is wreckage of like thousands and thousands of spaceships of all sorts of different alien races that no one had ever really seen before, all that stuff. But once you get through that field of debris, there's like an empty space that leads up to the Blackstone Fortress. So, like, all the vessels and such that are attempting to reach the Blackstone Fortress kind of have to stop before this debris field, and then smaller like kind of shuttles have to like perilously migrate through that debris to actually get to the fortress. So because of that, that's why all the ships look kind of small and truncated and such. I think because they are not like full scale, battleships or anything of that nature. So I think that makes it a little bit better than
yeah.
what I had initially
I guess, yeah, the
anticipated.
reason I was bringing that up because I think that art was done by someone else.
Yeah, there are a few things like on the actual boards and stuff like that that he didn't do. Um, and there's like a first player token or something that has a kind of shitty looking Auspex scanner thing, but like
Did they ever look good? No.
no, it couldn't have been good. But all the main like actual art is by the same guy, Paul. I mean,
Really good.
it's good. But
Yeah.
I think like I'm excited to actually play the game. Um,
Can we
as I
do
mentioned,
it? Can we play it? Do you think we were up to it?
I think we can do it. I mean, we played a little bit of Silver Tower. I mean, I don't think you did, Adam, because
I
you were
certainly didn't. Hell no.
on the opposite coast. But
Yeah.
but I think we can do it. I've read most of the rules now through all the different booklets and stuff, and it seems pretty straightforward. And I think it would be fun, and it brings up a thought that I think it would be kind of cool that, well, certainly at the moment they just have all the rules for the different hero models that are included in the game. But it
Yeah.
seems like it would be neat that you could just convert your own inquisitors and other adventures, mercenaries, things like that, and just kind of do your own narrative thing with it and still play
Yeah.
the game as normal, but kind of do your own thing with it. They don't wouldn't have to be the heroes in this. Like you might have to create some rules for those heroes and stuff, but I don't think it would be too hard. It might be a fun way to sort of
Yeah.
expand the game and kind of through gameplay come up with stories and background for some of the characters that you've created.
Yeah, so maybe if we can actually play the game a few times, we can get into more of that where we have rules for like our own
And even
characters
in
and
the
stuff.
rulebooks, they mention that expansions are coming.
So
So it'll
that's
be interesting
good. So that could be really
that
cool.
way.
Hope I guess the hope is they spent just as much time on these expansions as they did on the base game. And not it's just an excuse to say repackage all of the clam pack special characters and stuff and say like,
Yeah.
hey, Space Wolf Lord model, you can use him.
Well, I'm
And
also hoping that with some of the expansions, they do more with the fortress itself, because currently, like the
yeah,
big enemies in it, like are just chaos stuff. Like the
yeah,
only enemy model in the game that is actually part of the fortress are the little spindle drones. Everything else are just sort of hostiles that invaded the fortress. Which, interestingly, in the background, they mention that the fortress itself seems to be somewhat sentient and that it will purposefully rearrange itself in corridors and stuff to like force different people that are inside it to like run into one another and kind of like fight and kill themselves. So it like is constantly rearranging to funnel all like the chaos trader guardsmen and such into areas where new explorers have come into it, or where those Dark Eldar creatures or the spindle drones and such. So I mean that's kind of interesting and helps, I don't know, kind of explain and make the narrative make a little bit more sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, so hopefully that it'll continue to expand on some of that, and there's some other interesting things that aren't just like bad looking Chaos Space Marines, but that there's some more interesting Xenos creatures and constructs from the actual fortress itself.
Yeah. No,
The little spindle drones, I think, look great.
No, they do.
They look
great.
pretty alien and different from a lot of the Games Workshop stuff. And I feel it was like the second model that was revealed for Blackstone Fortress. It's like, oh man, this is great, new awesome stuff. And then, while there are a lot of nice models, there really weren't any other Xenos models.
Yeah.
Or models that were really different.
But I guess hopefully the thing sells well, which I almost certainly it will, because I think Warhammer Quest sold pretty well. This I feel should sell just as well. And also there's certainly a lot of excitement about the models in like the Inquisitor 28 community and stuff. So I feel there will be a lot of people just getting the game to convert all the models and stuff, even if they're not interested in playing.
Yeah, I would agree.
So it has that going for it. But yeah, I do hope in the coming expansions and stuff that they keep the same sort of like tone as this. And because yeah, part of what I think strengthens the thing as a whole is it all has a very uniform and distinct like art style and stuff. And if they just go the route of let's release rules for all the clan pack characters, and we'll have box sets where you can buy 4 Chaos Space Marine commanders.
Yeah, buy all the Death Guard
Fortress. Like hopefully they don't. Hopefully they don't do that. Or if they do decide, like, oh, we do want a Space Marine here, or we want like a Dark Eldar Archon or something. Hopefully they make new and more interesting models.
Because it won't be a Space Marine, it'll be a Primaris Space Marine, Adam.
Hopefully. Because then they'll look like a Space Marine. But yeah, hopefully they make new models that have sort of like their own individuality. Because I think that was one of the strongest aspects, or is one of the strongest aspects of the game itself. Most of the models, particularly with like the heroes and stuff, each model has its own unique like character and interesting details that sort of speak volumes.
They need to make some bounty hunters and mercenaries and stuff.
Yeah, so they could certainly do a lot of that. Hopefully some different like alien races and stuff. Even if they just kind of resculpt some of the neat like Jess Goodwin like Dark Eldar beasts and stuff that they've made in the past.
I could probably just go back and read through some of the Eisenhorn and like Ravener novels and find all sorts of interesting alien creatures and stuff to sculpt.
It's true. Or just look through the Rogue Trader book and stuff, I'm sure.
Yeah, honestly, that's true.
Because I think they did a great job of sort of bringing back some like old lore and stuff, primarily with Man of Iron. But like if they continue to do stuff sort of along those lines and don't like really make it overt and kind of wonky, like I think that would be really, really good. And I guess the Navigator household, like you read the lore, the household he was part of, I think, was actually mentioned in the first like Rogue Trader rule
Yeah,
book,
yeah, it's true.
which Games Workshop commented on that on their community page maybe a week or two ago, which I think is neat.
Well, I guess maybe we've come to sort of an end of stuff to talk about Blackstone Fortress, at least until we've tried to actually play it, which will hopefully be soon.
Yeah.
Need to
Well, not
assemble
that
more of these
soon.
models. Yeah, well.
Well, I guess it'll be as soon as Eric, you finish assembling a bunch of the models. I'm
Mm-hmm.
certainly not going to do it. If anything, I'll just take away models to convert into other things.
Do we want to open one of those Space Marines or something? Because like it's midnight already, so we probably should stop this somewhat soon.
But yeah, I feel we can
Yeah, we can
unbox
do
at
it.
least some.
I mean, the camera setup's different, but it might be harder to see this. But we still have two left. Two of the Space Marine heroes. Here they are. I am ashamed to say I still haven't mailed. I'm in the process of packaging up the several of the ones we've already opened to mail out, but unfortunately where I now live, there's not a lot of easy access to like a post office. So I think I should, at the very least, I'll be able to send the stuff out this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, which one, front or back?
Back.
Back.
That sounds good to me.
All right. What do we think? Which one do we think it is? Do people even remember what exists?
What options? No.
What can we
Sergeant
do?
model.
Yeah, I'm gonna say the sergeant. The
With the
sergeant.
chainsword? That would be cool.
Give the chainsword and the grab pistol. Yeah, that's what I think.
I think it's gonna be bolter scope.
Another bolter scope.
Yeah, pistol scope. So I guess thus far we haven't had any duplicates, which I think is surprising.
What about the reloading dude?
It could be him. I think
Yeah,
we're gonna
that's
see
probably more
bolter
likely
scope.
the reloading dude.
Okay.
Lifeboat sank the rock. We already got one of the rocket guys, so I don't
So
know.
we could get another.
We could get it again.
Could get another.
If you get another one, it's heading straight to your new apartment.
All right. Wait, I don't. Have we opened this one? Brother Titus. I don't even remember. No, we didn't.
Oh no.
Heck
Titus
yeah, it's the guy.
Andronicus?
Yeah, it's the guy reloading.
Oh yeah.
It's kind of neat.
Yeah, so actually that's impressive. Like maybe they really
there's
don't
more.
have. Yeah, maybe they don't have a lot of like duplication in the cases. Which, mind you, we only got like 7 of like the 12 or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You're not
So
gonna miss
Titus
this,
Andronicus. They still a band?
They're probably
Yeah, and
still
that's
bad.
still a Shakespeare play.
Yeah, it
It's
is.
true.
So the model looks pretty good.
What sort of
like-
bolter variant is it?
It's like a Godwin pattern bolter, so standard fare. The magazine they're loading in, it's like a single stack magazine. Each cartridge is pretty small. Again, like the other ones, they have 2 faces, one like a standard Space Marine helmet, and the other like a face, an unhelmeted head, to be similar to the card art. Oh, well, there you can come
Lifeboat
to see it.
Tank says that Titus Andronicus is still on tour.
Oh, damn. Who knew?
I haven't. I mean,
Yeah.
I think I saw they released an album like or so not that long ago, but I haven't listened to them in like 7 years.
Okay.
Ever since they released an album with a song on it called Food Fights, when I stopped listening to them.
I remember that. Yeah.
It's like
I guess I haven't commented. The model does have, again, a pretty nice scenic base. What is interesting, there's an empty magazine on the base to sort of like speak towards the notion that that's why they're reloading. they ejected that magazine and it's now on the ground. So
Yeah,
that's
they don't
cool.
need to keep those magazines.
Yeah, just throw that shit out. Does he have? They have a single pouch. He has a single pouch on his side to have one more magazine. So once he's done with this one, which, based on the size of it, since it's not a double stack magazine, he probably has like 10 to 12 rounds. And then in the other not the other pouch could hold a single magazine. So he has
He's not gonna
roughly
kill much.
so he has roughly 10 to 24 rounds. Since they're a pretty good aim, he can kill about 20 more things before he has to draw his sidearm, which those have even smaller magazines. Maybe another 10. So he's gonna have to find he's gonna have to find some more ammunition or he's up shit's creek. To say the least.
It's true.
All right. Do we want to just open the last one or save it?
I don't know.
Let's save it.
Okay.
Let's save it and call this stream over.
I don't know what we're gonna do when we run out of these. We can send one of these models to. All right. What was their username?
Lifeboat sank. Titus Andronicus coming down.
Is that the one they want? I mean, could also. I honestly have forgotten the ones. We have the one throwing the grenade. That one's pretty cool.
He's okay. This was fun.
Whatever. We'll send you one. We'll see what it is. Who knows?
Who doesn't need more shit in their lives?
Yeah, I certainly do. I certainly do. Yeah. All right. Well, so I think that will be the end of the stream. Thanks everyone for listening.
Thanks. Lifeboat sank.
Yeah, at the very least, we'll be back again next week at a similar time. But who knows? Maybe if we have other stuff we're dying to talk about, we'll come back at another time. Maybe there might be like a warning or a posting on Instagram sort of hinting that it'll happen.
Yeah, follow us on Instagram.
Yeah, so if you aren't, that's probably the easiest way to kind of get a sense of what we're working on.
Mm-hmm. Other than obviously just looking at the blog, but I feel Instagram is a little bit quicker to sort of share stuff we're working on and that sort of thing.
You don't have to read all of our rambling on about stuff as well.
That's true.
Yeah. So I guess we'll end it there, and I guess I'll end it with a picture of like a Christmas card that I'm working on drawing. It's of a brontosaurus, or I guess this is a brachiosaurus. The brontosaurus never existed. Putting like a holiday star on this prehistoric, maybe it's like a cycad or something. I don't know my plants. But
there we go. Merry Christmas.
Yeah, happy holidays, everybody. We're moving into the holidays, and maybe if all goes well, I'll draw more Christmas cards and stuff, and maybe I'll show them too. So until next time, keep on enjoying the hobby in whatever way you want to.
Yeah.
Have a good evening.